product, or probably one of the worst ones in terms of health, you wind up getting a hot dog or something that's pig related. But you totally let all of that stuff go out your back door because, like I said, you were scared witless when you first see those things. And you're like, oh, shit, I do not need to be doing this. But then life comes back at you, and you wind up going back into these things. So I was wondering, as I share those narratives with you, when you hear about people that are having these kind of quote-unquote life-changing moments because they see these documentaries, but then they go back to their old habits, how do you, as a vegan proponent or even as a healthy living proponent, convince them that either, one, they need to go to the vegan lifestyle, or if they're going to eat chicken and meats and everything, they need to figure out a way to do it healthy? And I don't even know if that's possible, but what kind of responses do you give to them when they tell you, yeah, I know about it, I saw Super Size Me, and I know that all of this stuff is bad for me, or I saw whatever the documentaries are that are out there to talk about what they do to the cows and the pigs, but look, I got to eat, and I'm going to eat my meat, or I've been raised, like you said, to eat my meat and everything. So how do you challenge these preconceptions that people have?
That's a great question because this whole dynamic of eating, there's so many components to it for us as individuals. There is, for my first response is pace yourself. So what I do is I give people an eating assessment form, and I'll ask questions like, one of the first questions I'll ask you is, what is it that you currently consume that you know you really have no business eating? Like every time you eat it, you sort of have to talk yourself into eating it because you know, this is not really good, but you talk yourself into eating it.
Well, I'm going to stop you right there. I'm going to stop you right there because I can already tell you right off the top of my head, because it's an item that actually isn't even a meat product, but it's an item that I know is nothing but pure sugar. I know that my folks tell me that and it's a drink, that I drink too much of this product. I know that friends and acquaintances tell me that I drink too much of this product. I know that it's totally probably not the best product for me whatsoever, but I love the flavor of it. And I will admit it, I am an addict of probably, and I go ahead and admit it, we all have our addictions. And one of my addictions is sweet tea. I love me,
right.
I'm a Southern boy. I love me some sweet tea. So I'm going to go out there. I'm either going, if I'm at a restaurant, there's a good chance I'm either going to have a sweet tea with me, or I'm going to have what they call an Arnold Palmer, which is a mix of a sweet tea and a lemonade. But like I said, I know for a fact that ain't nothing but pure sugar all the way across. So I know that from a health standpoint, that's probably one of the worst things I can put in my body.
So what I would say to you, a couple of things. One, I would say, okay, let's figure out how we can decrease your intake of it. Another thing I'm going to say, like I had a friend reach out to me just last night, and he was saying that he wants to eat better, and he said one of the things he's addicted to is candy, and I said, do me a favor, let's change that. Let's say that you're not addicted to candy. Let's acknowledge that you're addicted to sugar, and the reason why I wanted to do that is because I didn't want him to box candy and not recognize how this sugar piece consumes him in other areas. So if the sweet tea is just the item of choice for feeding that sugar addiction, then we can deal with the sweet tea, but we also have to deal with the sugar addiction as well. When I lived in Atlanta, I grew so much in so many areas of my life, and as far as the eating piece, I remember in '94, which was the same year I stopped eating meat, dairy, cheese, everything. I had some neighbors, two brothers. They were on a sugar and salt fast. And I said, well, what is that? I'd never heard of that. And they said, if we look at the ingredients of whatever we're purchasing and there's added sugar or added salt, we're not eating it. And they were doing it for 30 days. Now, mind you, I had been working at the natural food store for 3 years at this time, but I was not at the point where I was reading labels. So once they told me about this, I was forced to start reading labels. And that's when I realized there were so many things that had added sugar and added salt. And the added sugar piece was mind-blowing because I didn't think there was a need to have sugar in pasta sauce. I didn't think there was a need to have sugar in ketchup. So I'm learning so much because I'm actually just reading labels. So I did a sugar and salt fast as well. I started drinking. I love hot tea. I love tea. I started drinking my hot tea without adding any sweetener. And what I basically did in the process was reset my taste buds as I maneuvered myself around the sugar addiction. I got to a point where I could enjoy a cup of hot tea without putting any sweetener in it. And granted, I'm not just talking about regular Lipton black tea. You know, you have all these different herbal teas that have a flavor and taste of their own that now I'm just able to sincerely appreciate. Along with that, going back to the information piece that I mentioned as one of the staples of looking at eating better, I was learning how sugar is having an adverse impact on my immune system. So now I have some more information and I have some more incentive. And just quite frankly, I was tired of having something that was bigger than me, that was stronger than me. And that was this drive to put this sugar into everything I was consuming. And for so many of us, go ahead.
Yeah, no, go ahead. You were saying for so many of us what?
For so many of us, you know, we take strong positions on a lot of things that's happening around us. And we sort of allow and accept ourselves to be punked by these urges and addictions that are inside of us that has nothing to do with anybody else. It's all us. So a lot of times when I want to be frustrated with Donald Trump, it's like, all right, let me look at my weakness and my issue and figure out how I can take control of something that I have control of, because I don't have any control over that dude. So I can't do too much complaining about that dude, but I have control over me. So let me figure out how I can shift this energy toward me to make me better in this situation.
And you brought up an interesting point earlier, and I want to bring that up as well. You talked about the whole thing of looking at labels. And I know a lot of times people, when they go grocery shopping now, they will definitely look at labels. And actually, even looking at labels got a major natural food chain into trouble because people started looking at the labels there as well. And then they started saying, wait a minute, y'all are claiming to be a natural food chain, but y'all are also having a lot of processed stuff in your material in terms of like the sugar and things of that nature, or you're getting your material from places that are not there. If they're not exploiting their animals, they're exploiting their workers. So I was wondering what your reaction when that came out was, because that's come out a couple of times about a couple of those chains where people are looking at the labels and they're like finding that there's either a human exploitation element or there's a contradiction. They're claiming to be natural, but they're not really natural.
Mm-hmm. I tell people, with Vegan Flavor Cafe, our target is organic ingredients. That's our primary target. And then within that, you have the ability to avoid non-genetically modified organisms. And then on top of that, or along with that, we are soy-free and we are gluten-free. Now, there are issues with the organic industry where things are being labeled as organic, and there are some questions or concerns. I give you an example. One of our popular dishes is our carrot tuna. And there are issues with carrots. There are questions about carrots and the authenticity of the carrot. But to the extent that we move past that, I used to use baby carrots because they were already peeled, and I like to peel my carrots before I juice them. The baby carrots were already peeled, so they were great. But then some news came out that the baby carrots were, in fact, grown organically, but then how they were treated before, or how they were treated during the processing stage when they were put into that package to keep them so bright and orange inside that packaging was cause for alarm. So we stopped buying baby carrots. I know that there are certain brands, certain chains that are seemingly better options, but then it came up there was some dishonesty there. So on a very basic level, it's deciding what your standard is going to be and then working within that, which is the other reason why I say changing how you eat is a process and you got to respect it because, you know, unless you're going to go to a place and not check the ingredients and just sort of.
Excuse me? Hello?
I'm here, Mark.
All right. Did he drop?
Yeah, he dropped. So we'll wait a second and
Hopefully
we'll call back in. We'll pop him right back in.
Okay.
Yeah, pretty interesting, man. Like, I always wondered how people do it. I guess the same way I eat meat, I guess. You know?
Exactly. Yep. Did I hear a beat?
It takes a lot of discipline.
Oh, yeah. It definitely takes a lot of discipline.
Whole lot of discipline.
So what would you say, like I said, mine was iced tea. What would you say is your weak point in terms of what you eat and things of that nature? Like I said, I know that I have this addiction to sweet tea to some degree. I'm not going to lie, I probably eat way too much at the fast food restaurants, which means I probably spend way too much at, like, across the street from my place at KFC and definitely over at Subway and places like that. But, you know, sometimes I try to eat something that I think is a little bit more healthier, or at least supposed to be a little bit healthy. But I know that you're ripping and running too with the NAACP and your work within the penal system and things of that nature. So what are some of your weaknesses that you just sometimes feel that you can't get rid of?
Man, let's see. I still have a weakness for sweet tea. However, I have to wait until, like, I get home to really enjoy it like that, you know. Lemon chess pie, Starburst.
That's Starburst candy.
Yeah, Starburst candy, and what else? Whatchamacallit. And if you remember those candy bars, I recently found those.
What candy bars you talking about here?
It's the name of it is Whatchamacallit.
Oh yeah, I remember Whatchamacallit. Yeah.
So I found.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, he's back in.
Yeah, sorry about that, gentlemen. Yeah.
Oh, no problem. That happens sometimes. I was actually just asking Dean what some of his weaknesses were in terms of fast foods and things of that nature. He admitted he's got the same thing, sweet tea, but he was also naming a bunch of candies that he's addicted to.
I heard the Starburst. I remember the Starburst. The Starburst, that's, boy, you want to talk about sugar rush? Like, what I remember about Starburst, I remember my challenge when I ate a Starburst was, let me see if I can eat this and just suck it and not chew it.
Nope.
What it wants you to do when you put it in your mouth is chew it, and then when you chew it, you go for the next one. And so my goal was, let me just see if I can suck this instead of chew it and have enough will to do so. And the whatchamacallit bars, I remember that too. You old school, my man. I love it.
You talking about that old school stuff. So you remember the whatchamacallit as well? The whatchamacallit candy bar?
Yep.
Man, when I found those again, it was like I hit the lotto.
But see, what I like to do, to answer your question further, Mark, one of the things that I like to do is I like to get people to press the reset button on their taste buds and on their assessment of what they feel like is good or great, or dissect exactly what it is about this item that you're consuming to see what really turns you on about it, what you really enjoy about it. And then you do have to figure out how you're going to replace that. It's not realistic to just cut it off. You got to figure out how you're going to replace that. So even if you love iced tea, I'm going to say make it at home, bring it with you. That doesn't necessarily help you in the restaurant, but it helps you as you transition, because you don't know what sugar they're using, and whatever sugar they're using, you can make a better one yourself. Bring it with you, and this way you're getting an herbal tea you're getting a better sugar